What is he doing? Hey you, remember this? Hi everyone, this is Zeiss, and on this channel I turn you into an RPG master. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and keep in touch. Now, I know I have already talked about this character, there's a video dedicated to it already. It's progressing quite nicely, but let's get to the topic here. Remember when I cleared tier 200 pit on the Diablo 4 PTR? Well, I'm working on the same build. I've already explained how I approached it and what I did during the PTR, but let's see what I did during Seasonal Hardcore on Season 4 Loot Reborn. I'm gonna discuss everything about this build and what I did so far and compare it to the PTR and discuss why those changes were made. Let's begin with the gear, because that's the first thing we see, and you can obviously notice the skills I'm using are pretty much the same. Now, I have here the Shako with kinda wrong master working, but we'll get there. Pretty sure we'll get there eventually. Soulbrand is, I believe, the best in slot armor here because of the massive damage reduction, and the rolls on this one are pretty decent. It's nearly maxed out, so you will probably also notice that my rubies are not the highest rubies, but we'll also get there. It's really hard to get those fragments right now. And on the glove, I have really good glove actually. I believe it's maybe almost the best in slot here. So it's life, greater affix life, damage over time, plus 3 to blight. Well, on the PTR I had, I think, damage to close enemies and plus 2 core skills. So this is, I believe, much better, especially having in mind we have damage over time, shadow damage over time. This massively increases the damage here, together with the Shako. Well, I also tampered here chance to stun. So we'll have heavy, very heavy crowd control over the monsters. Now I'm using here the aspect of decay, which I usually do on shadow builds on the glove. So let's move on to the next item here, our pants. It has greater affix of intelligence. I would have liked it a lot if it was also the life and possibly also the third one. Now let's discuss this a little bit more, because eventually when I keep master working and make changes to the Paragon to keep the armor at the new cap of 9.23k, that's 9230, so we don't necessarily need more than that. Everything above that number is just overkill, we don't need it. So what I intend of getting here is either change the tampering, which would be extremely risky. So I believe the better thing to do here is change the armor back to dodge chance, like I did before. I used here the armor because of the Shako. I had to change it because it doesn't have an armor. It's obvious here the hardened bones. This is really helpful for hard content. And again, rubies. Now the boots, because of the metamorphosis here, I picked boots with plus 2 evade charges, implicit modifier. And the important thing here is life, unfortunately, not greater affix. Movement speed, it's fine if it's not greater affix, but then we'll have to also add it as tampering, because very high movement speed helps to avoid many attacks in this case, which I'll get to in a bit. Unfortunately, dodge chance here still not greater affix, but I hope you get the idea where I'm going with this. Now, probably if I have great graphics movement speed, I would be aiming at evade cooldown reduction here on the tampering, and tendrils it should stay. I believe it's okay if we have it only on 1 or 2 items, so we can get more. I believe the crepify size does not matter as much to like make it super huge. That's, I don't know, just don't feel like it's a good thing to do, especially having in mind how this build operates, which we'll get to in a moment again. Now, the other thing I'll be aiming again is heavy crowd control, so chance to immobilize or chance to stun. The others, maybe not so much. Or to freeze, that could also do. But the thing is, if we keep stacking the same crowd control tampering aspect, the chance increases. And also having chance to immobilize with the core skill Blight, I believe this will make it really insane. Well, let's see how it will do later on though. Now, because of the metamorphosis here, I'm not using the bullshit skill Blood Mist because we are a Necromancer after all. For those of you who know me well already know my opinion about this skill. If I need corpses, I rely on Hewitt Flesh on actually killing stuff. Wow, right? So I don't have to waste my HUD with this bullshit skill, which actually doesn't help much because you don't use it that often or at all. Right, moving on here on the weapon. Unfortunately, it does not have greater affixes. Now, anything greater affix here would definitely help, but probably because it's hardcore, I would appreciate if it's the life here, the life affix. I'm using a wand because it will help with triggering the crowd control affixes, tampering affixes, and also the Zafal effect, and also this additional tampering aspect here, chance to deal additional shadow damage. Now the funny thing about this one is it's like a separate damage appearing out of nowhere, right? It doesn't add it to your damage, it's just like another hit. At least that's how I saw it before, and now it's just more numbers popping up. So if that's true, it does not though have the possibility to trigger the other effects. Now I'm using here the blighted aspect. You could also, I guess, try with aspect of the damned, but I believe this is better because it's also higher number and shadow blight is happening relatively often, so that also is better compared to damned. Unfortunately, there's no place to use aspect of the damned here because of the other items, and I think this could work better because there will be less actions performed by you or by me in this case, having in mind as well that this build is extremely high actions per minute and requires a lot of skill as well. Now I've socketed here with Amethyst to get more shadow damage over time and more damage over time to further buff Shadow Blight. Now let's move to the rest of stuff. Here we have Ebon Piercer. Unfortunately it doesn't have greater affix like I did on the PTR. It was with greater affix damage reduction and essence cost reduction. Now I will probably keep on farming to get one, but it is what I will be aiming for, like at least the damage reduction and possibly the shadow damage over time, because eventually we will need a lot of damage on those higher tier pits. Now this, of course, probably no Necromancer could go without. Well, it could, but it will require a lot more actions from you, and this build is already very high APM. So what I will be looking for here is live greater affix and possibly lucky hit chance greater affix, and of course better rolls on the unique power. The false effect, the false ring here, I would probably be looking for greater affix on the damage over time, because the others, if we can also get lucky hit, that's good, but the rest don't matter as much. Now you probably notice I am using different gems here to cap my resistances, because it's really easy to cap them now that the armor cap is relatively low, because before that, for level 200 monster, it was 16,463, and that's actually quite a lot. Now I would like to discuss armor later on in the video, because how I manage armor, but let's move on to the shield here. At least it's more like the one I got on the PTR. It's with damage reduction greater affix, and it has life and intelligence. In this case, at least the damage reduction, it's good that it's greater affix. I will try to hit more on it with the master working, or if it doesn't work, pretty much anything helps here, if I hit anything here. But the most important ones are the life, the damage reduction, and also the first tampering affix here, which is in this case chance to immobilize. So for the Book of the Dead, I sacrificed here the Reapers to increase the shadow damage. For the Skeletal Mages, I sacrificed the Cold ones to get more damage to vulnerable enemies. And how unfortunate, we have to use minions. You probably know I am not a minion guy. I am a ethical solo hardcore Necromancer. And I'm so glad that the bugs are fixed now. Well, some of them. Well, there are also others. Now, in this case, anyway, we're using the Blood Golem for the damage reduction. In this case, well, it's damage absorb of the damage we will take. Now, the other thing about this Blood Golem, I've never ever seen his health bar move. Never. It just stays there. He takes insane hits, so it's just totally fine if he takes part of the damage, so nothing to worry about there. Moving on to the skills here, let's explain here a bit. It's pretty much the same, pretty much, but not, because of the changes I also did to the Paragon board and because of the changes introduced in the latest patch. Now, of course, I'm using Reap for the damage reduction and attack speed, so also for the corpses, but I still do rely on Hewitt Flesh. I have here maxed out Blight and also the chance to immobilize with Paranormal Blight. Hewitt Flesh, it's obvious, also imperfectly balanced. 1 point here on Corpse Explosion, up to the upgrade of Blighted Corpse Explosion. This time 3 points on Grim Harvest and 3 points on Fueled by Death. I was using just one before, but could get there when I tamper, when I masterwork all the gear. So it might not be necessary, we'll see. Might wanna get some more movement speed then. Well, Death's Embrace, of course, for the damage reduction here and the more damage, and we're mostly shotgunning enemies from close distance and reaping them, so that's quite handy here. Of course, Amplified Damage and Decrepify, but with Abhorrent Decrepify. Now, why would I pick this one? Because Horrid doesn't work on bosses, and in this case I could use Abhorrent Decrepify to get the cooldowns faster, which in this case are the Golem, in case I need to become unstoppable, or also for the Corpse Tendrils, in case I need to apply heavier crowd control. which pretty much everything on this build does crowd control. That's just nuts. Now, moving on here to tendrils, and of course with plagued corpse tendrils to make things vulnerable. Yeah, demons mostly. Well, I got here 1 point to Reaper's Pursuit, 1 point Crippling Darkness, and 3 to Terror and to Gloom. Gloom is very important here, but 3 to Terror, of course, especially because of this one here, Paranormal Blight. Now, this time I placed 2 points on Necrotic. It's actually a really good passive which enables fortification without using the glyph exhumation. I noticed that 1 point is just not enough without exhumation, and 2 is actually quite fine. 3 is just too much or not really necessary. But in case we're fighting very high tier pit monsters and master working is done, this point from Grim Harvest might also go here, because Fortify is going away really quickly when taking a lot of damage, so that would definitely help. Now, the other thing that I'm getting here is standalone because of no skeletons. I'm also getting Memento Mori. Now we have a blood golem here, but it only reduces the DR by 2, and at the same time we get 16, so it's a really good trade-off, I think. Shadow Blight here has currently insane bonus of 432. I believe with the master working and the proper greater affixes, it could just become really insane. And with those two aspects on the gloves and on the weapon, the damage should be pretty decent. Now, I probably already explained well about Blood Mist and why I don't like it, but in this case, because of the golem, it used to be just bone golem, I think, but now all the golems, when you use the button to summon them, it also makes you unstoppable. It's not just the bone golem now, so that's pretty good. And having in mind we also have metamorphosis and so much cooldown reduction and the potential to get more, I believe Blood Mist is totally out of the question here. Let's move on to the Paragon board and see what I actually changed here. I'm using darkness like I did before, and the second board is Wither. I'm using Abyssal here. Of course, there it is. The third board that I got is Scent of Death, and I'm using here the glyph Scourge. Now, that's the only glyph I leveled to 21. The rest are to be done. I will rotate Pit and Nightmare Dungeons so I can get more resources for the pit and do more master working, and also while doing so level my glyphs here. Now, the other board that I picked here is Flesh Eater, the usual thing, with Territorial, because it's less dexterity compared to the last board that I picked here. It is Bloodbath, and because we fortify, we are also getting here the damage while fortified. Hopefully I will get to this dexterity as well to further increase the damage, and some life notes and some more damage are also really close nearby, so I believe that's a really good choice here. Well, if things go wrong, like if the golem for some reason starts taking a lot of damage or starts dying and it's not suitable to be used as a source to get in an unstoppable state, then I might use Hulking Monstrosity here to further increase its defenses, which I highly doubt will be needed actually. Now, because of the hardened bones, I do believe that should not be necessary, and I don't really rely on it for like to kill something. It does like a couple of thousand damage, but it tanks quite nicely, and it spawns corpses, and it also reduces the damage I am taking. Now, this is what I have to share about the current state of this build. I would suggest, if you wanna like see what's going on and how far I will get to follow more on what I do, at least just give me a like and let me know what you think about this build in the comments, and what you think, like how far I could get with it. Now, in the case of no Shako, I was using those two before. Like I said, same thing pretty much, but with dodge chance instead, and this is the helmet. It was using the aspect of might. I was reaping too much anyway, so we have here to compensate for the +2 skills. We have intelligence. For the life, we have life. Not as much, but still it is. Some resistance we're not getting elsewhere. And of course, the Crepify size. Could be Tendril size, would be better. And yeah, I guess that's basically it. Now, you probably notice I'm not using the aspect of grasping veins here, because for now at least it just doesn't work. And it won't do much for this build, even if it works, because Blizzard actually fixes one thing and breaks 50 other things. But the things which crit here are the Blight projectiles, the tendrils, what else? The Shadow Blight, and the Zafao effect. So it could potentially help, but I do believe, as far as I noticed, that the Decay and Blighted combination, it does just wonders. And like I already mentioned, having to constantly cast curses too much and use aspect of the damned instead just might not do. You could do that on leveling, and while you don't have Ebon Piercer, for example, then it actually does wonders. And until you get this one, this Faust, you can also use, I guess, Grasping Veins if you want to level this build the way it is right now. Okay, about the armor, I'm actually using the armor calculator made by Zario, community member Zario, and I actually use it since season 1 when he did it. It's actually still valid up to the point of now level 100 monsters. What I'm doing is, if I have doubts over the armor, I just enter the level of the monster I need a cap for, like let's say 52, and it tells me the number I need to cap the armor for this level monster. Now, why I'm doing this? It's because I'm playing mostly on PlayStation 5, and there's just no way when I open the inventory to hover over the armor so I actually see how much I'm capping and what physical damage reduction I'm getting for the armor value that I have. And it's just easier to enter the monster level here and see the number which I should be aiming at. And even if you play on PC, I believe this is better, especially for leveling, where we're fighting level 10 levels monsters which are 10 levels higher for the optimal experience gain. I'll make sure to link this into in the description of the video. And again, thank you Zario for saving us all. I know the formula is like not insane to figure out, insanely hard to figure out, but again, big shout out to this guy. It probably saved a lot of people who play this game. So if you manage to meet him somewhere on YouTube, make sure to say hi. Really cool guy. I guess there's not much more to add here, but again, if you want to follow on how this progresses, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and also let me know what you think about this in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one. Wait, what the fuck did I do here? Let's slap this dexterity point here instead. What does it say? Damage. Ah, okay, damage is fine.